Which was your worst I knew I shouldn't have done this moment? It's a vague memory. I think I was around 3 or 4, maybe 5. I had this big goof of a German Shepherd who was my best friend and guardian, but who liked to eat bugs and lizards. We were living in Nicaragua, and so bugs and lizards were not in short supply. I don't know why I decided to copy the dog, but I saw a huge spider and decided to eat it. I have this memory that I'm sure has been exaggerated, but I clearly remember my little hand clasping the huge spider by the abdomen, legs sticking out between my fingers, and popping it into my mouth. I bit down, chewed, and still to this day have a vivid memory of the legs dangling out of my mouth as I ate this giant. It tasted awful, and it felt so terrible to bite down onto. I have occasional nightmares about it now, and I am in my mid-40s. I want to time travel just to tell 3 or 4-year-old me, don't eat that spider. Don't eat absolutely massive spiders, folks. You'll regret it. I bought the house we'd been renting for a few years without getting an inspection first. We were trying to do it super cheap, and I told my wife, look, we already know everything that's wrong with this house. Why bother getting an inspection? Follow up, we did not know everything that was wrong with this house, nor how expensive it would be to fix those things. In 4th grade, my parents remodeled the kitchen. This involved digging up part of the foundation to rebuild the deck. As such, we had a giant dirt pile in the backyard. I was playing on it, jumped off, tripped, and fell face first on concrete. I immediately knew something was wrong. I ran inside and opened my mouth and looked in the bathroom mirror. I was missing about a third of my top right front tooth. I distinctly recall saying out loud, yup, it's gone. I have a very similar injury and a story that'll be right at home on this thread. My twin brother got the idea to tow me on roller skates behind his bicycle. It took some convincing on his part. He thought it was the most awesome idea ever. I didn't, but he convinced me. He tied a jump rope to his bike as a tow rope, got me going absolutely stupid fast, and then my foot hit something. That's the I knew I shouldn't have done this moment. I fell on my face, ran into the house to get my knees and hands patched up, and then noticed that my tooth felt weird, sharp. Almost half of it was gone. Do you have a filling or a crown now? Either way, fuck all that dental work. Edit. Apparently, improvised bike towing mishaps and breaking teeth are pretty common. Pours out a tube of toothpaste for all the homies. Dead teeth. On one hand, I'm glad I'm not the only one, but on the other, I'm sorry all you Redditors had to go through it too. I was about 5 years old, and the next door neighbors took me to meet their horses. The mom gave very clear and explicit instructions on how to be near and handle the horses, and proceeded to start to brush one of them. In my infinite wisdom, I walked behind the horse and very timidly grazed its beautiful tail with my small hand. That's the day I became the 1978 Connecticut State Rodeo Champion. With lightning speed, I was hit with a force I wouldn't again feel until as an adult I was in a car accident. I was launched out of the stall and halfway across the common area. As I lay stunned, gasping for breath, I knew I shouldn't have done that. When I was 6 years old and stuck my little finger in a pencil sharpener and twisted it a few times like it was a pencil, I nearly passed out. You just reminded me of a classmate in 2nd grade. He was newer, so I guess he felt he had something to prove. He managed to get the stapler off the teacher's desk and unfolded it so he could shoot them at people while the teacher was out of the room for a short bit. Of course, we ask him to stop, but he says something like, why? It's not like it hurts, and pushes the stapler into his palm. He didn't cry in front of us, I'll give him that, but he did not insist it didn't hurt and asked for the nurse as soon as the teacher returned. I don't think I've seen anyone turn that shade of red since. Got distracted while my wok with some oil and it was heating up. When I snapped back to reality, my hand just automatically threw in the dried chili flakes. It was like an out-of-body experience. My brain couldn't stop my hand in time. And that's how I masked myself and the dog. I did something similar. We were having a Halloween party and I was making jalapeno poppers, deseeding them and putting the seeds in the garbage disposal. After about 40 jalapenos I turn on the hot water and the garage disposal, creating a nice steamy mace, forcing about 20 people out of the house. I offered to teach the new guy at the hospital how to take a body down the freezer. We only had 4 freezers and on this particular day they were all full. It was 1 a.m. when we got down there and realized this. Protocol is when all the freezers are full, you have to take the body out that's been in the freezer the longest and put it on the harvesting table. Well, the gentleman who had passed from alcohol poisoning was roughly 300 pounds and was unfortunately the one who had been in there the longest. So the security guard, myself, and the trainee had to lift this guy out of the bottom freezer and onto the harvesting table and then carry 6 trash bags full of ice from the kitchen back to the morgue. We didn't leave until 3 a.m. and the trainee quit the following day. When I was little I didn't know how the can opener worked, so I opened the can with a knife and hurt myself. I knew this would happen, but I was hungry and impatient. Luckily I didn't hurt myself that bad. Have a scar on my finger, but that's it. More luck than judgment. And I was able to open the can with the knife. Ha. I am still embarrassed that I didn't know how the can opener worked. I was working as a stuntman and it was my last performance with a particular stunt group. They wanted me to do a particularly dangerous version of a stunt that I was pretty uncomfortable with. I'd done the regular version thousands of times and could practically do it in my sleep. I agreed to do it because it was just the one time. What were the odds of me being hurt doing it just the one time, I thought. Later that day I was in the second hospital after being airlifted from the first because my injuries were too severe for it. Had literally a gallon of blood transfusions. They weighed me before and after, and life-saving surgery. If you have a bad feeling about something, take it seriously. I accepted the responsibility of cooking way too much for an event. I just kept saying yes. The day came and I was running around like a chicken with its head cut off. I grabbed the grate in the oven to pull it out with my bare hands. Why didn't I use oven mitts? I was pissed, so I kept going and needed to strain noodles and grabbed them off the stove and started straining them on my way to the sink. Hot water all over my legs and feet. Worst cooking day of my life. I touched the coil in a toaster with a knife while it was switched on. When the power in the house cut out, I thought I should not have done that. When I told my father what I'd done, I knew for sure I should not have done that. Edit. For those asking, no, I didn't get a beating. Dad was more worried about my well-being than anything else. Unfortunately, we lost him to cancer 2 weeks ago. He was a great dad. Reddit. When I was around 6, a few neighbors about my age and I were hanging out in the back area of a local park and found this weird shoebox half buried near the edge of a creek. We were apprehensive, but we dug it up and opened it, finding a few Ziploc bags of white powder, which I immediately thought to be some kind of drugs. We ended up throwing the bags into a nearby creek and stomping on the box until it was unrecognizable, tossing it in the creek too. To this day, I still have no idea what we found, only that I probably should have listened to the premonition I felt.